external social and natural worlds.
So I didn't see that in when you've talked about that before. You're seeing a deep kind of resonance between those where each discloses the other.
You saw it. I'm just pointing out my vision of it, I suppose.
Yeah.
I'm wondering if that's the analogous vision.
I think that's right. I think,
and it's
we're rescuing.
It's the discordance. See, it's interesting because it's the discordance between the map and the reality that drives the seeking of the Father within, right? Because you see what I mean? Because when your desire does not manifest itself and you despair, you call to the Father within to reveal himself. And so that's the rescuing of the Father from the dragon of chaos.
So you're
kenotic, right? Because you're kenotic, you're your books behind you, which is why you array them behind you in no small part. But as you said, in your own defense, when you're putting your ideas forth, I'm just the gist.
Yeah.
There's another t-shirt. But that's the same idea as kenosis.
Yeah, I know, the emptying. And I'm deeply interested in the relationship between kenosis and henosis. Because
I don't know henosis.
Oh, henosis is sort of.
It's horrifying and great to talk to someone who knows a whole bunch of things I don't know at all.
Oh, thank you, Jordan. That's quite the compliment coming from someone like you. Henosis is it's the summation of the Neoplatonic anagogy, the Neoplatonic ascent, whereby the one within you becomes one with the one without until there is only the one. It's ultimate at one-ment. And also it has the sense of atonement because it's the ultimate healing of that which is most existentially distressing to us, which is our being separated from the ground of reality within and the ground of reality without, and also separating those.
Yes, so that is what is most existentially distressing to us. You agree with that?
Yes.
So that's why I titled my next book the title that I am titling it, which is We Who Wrestle with God, because that's our fundamental problem. Is that dissociation. But I believe that's the case.
So that calls something forth for me now, the wrestling.
But then that means that okay, please go ahead with that first.
What I was going to say is, we're talking about this bivalence of how reality presents to itself. This is Heidegger's big thing, right? And there's a sense in which it shines into our intelligibility,
shines forth,
but it also withdraws, right? It withdraws into its moreness. It shines with its suchness, and it withdraws into its moreness. And wrestling is like that, if you think about it. Because wrestling, I'm making contact, but I'm also being surprised. Think about the two phenomenologies of our sense of realness. One is when things are confirmed, and it's real because look at how it all fits together.
Right.
And then the other is, geez, I didn't know that. I didn't know that.
Yeah,
that surprises me.
That's right. That's right. Yeah. That is the two things that are the most real, isn't it? Isn't that something?
Yeah, and wrestling is both of those. And notice it's a conformity metaphor too, right? You have to come into conformity, literally form yourself to the body of your opponent, right? And you're right. So there's the shining, but there's also the realness because they're shocking you from beyond. I hadn't picked that up on the wrestling metaphor. The wrestling metaphor is actually pointing to it brings together, right, the two ways in which reality grabs us: the confirming from within and the surprising from without.
So that's why we're spoken to in parables, isn't it?
I think so.
It takes us thousands of years to make them conscious, and then we keep doing so and we keep doing so to make them more and more conscious. I mean, taking apart Genesis like that was really revelatory to me but I differed from the atheist because I approached the text with reverence and ignorance and humility, believing that I was nothing in comparison to what it contained.
You thought that there were truths available through transformation, not just through information.
Well, what are we, stupid? Are we stupid? Is that why we were guided by this book for so many thousands of years and preserved it? Is because we're stupid?
Yeah,
I don't think so.
Yeah,
so maybe that means there's something I don't know about it. It's we're all stupid. Either I'm stupid, which is highly probable, or we're all stupid, which is not so highly probable.
I think Well, I mean, as I've said, I think one of my deepest criticisms of the new atheists is precisely the fact. I think I have a lot of criticisms of theism too, because of the way it has bound itself. I mean, current theism, it has bound itself to a Cartesian conception of modernity and reality, and that's
go into that. Go into that.
Well,
I want to talk to you about dogma and spirit a bit.
Okay,
but let's leave that. Go into what you just said.
Okay, so I'm going to say thing. I'm going to put a pin in it because we're still trying to do the 4 P's of knowing. but the new atheists lose the 3 other P's, and they lose. They look for scientific knowledge in the Bible, not paying attention to how it cultivates wisdom, and the fact
and not knowing that there's any difference between scientific knowledge and wisdom. This is what I talked about with Stephen Fry recently, because Stephen, who's allied with the atheists, knows that there's such a thing as wisdom, which is why he pursues and embodies myth, but he's annoyed at the church because of its dogma, and he confuses the church with its dogma.
Exactly.
But, you know, I'm also going to say a few positive things about dogma. Dogma is the map.
I think dogma is, you know, in signal detection theory, I think dogma is the inescapable need to set the criterion. At some point, you can't, like,
yes.
in signal detection theory, you have to set the criterion. And all you do to set the criterion, this sounds like Pascal, is you assess the relevance of the risks. Because I'll gather more information, but then you have to set the criterion for that.
Yes,
right?
yes, exactly.
Again and again, and at some point.
Yes, that's right. That's right.
But you should.
So the criterion we're talking about is the worship of that ultimate spirit.
Well,
that's the setting of the criteria, and there's a dogma. There's an element in which dogma serves that. So we can't just because Fry says, "Well, I like the spirit, but not the dogma." It's like because you have to make a decision. That's your point.
Okay, that's right.
And in every act, there's a decision. So in every act, there's a worship of the dogma because you set the criterion.
Right, but you set the criterion, but that's not the same thing as making the connection. Don't forget that credo is later, and I say should always be in service to religio. Religio, which means to bind, that's that connectedness we've been talking about throughout. And the point about setting the criterion, and this is like a William James thing to say, the point of setting the criterion is to get as reliable a continuity of religio as you possibly can. And when credo goes from giving your heart to I assert, we stop making credo, we stop conceiving of credo in a way that sees it integrally in service of religio. And that's a part of my critique of what's happening.
Okay, so that seems to lead wisely into the 4 areas that you were going to discuss.
Well, yeah. So I went back to, we had propositional, and then of the non-propositionals, we have procedural,